We are so thrilled to be partnering with Hinge. Hinge is the dating app designed to be deleted. As you all know, I'm a huge Hinge advocate as I met my partner of almost 3 years on the app. Even before meeting him, Hinge was always my go-to app because I met more relationship-minded people here and had some great dates. Clearly, I haven't been on the app for a little while, but I re-downloaded it to check out some of the new features. One that stood out to me was the voice prompt, my best friend's take on why you should date me, where your friend can hype you up. Not only does this make the profile creation less daunting, but it's not always easy to see your own green flags. So to test it out, I asked Yue some fun prompts to get her take on what I could put if I was dating again. So the first one, how long have we known each other? What was your first impression of me and how has that changed?
Julie and I have known each other for almost 10 years. My first impression of Julie was that she's very social, but I've learned that she has a lot more depth to her beyond the social butterfly that she is.
My next prompt, what do you think are my green flags?
I would say she's deeply loyal. She believes in love, curious mindset, and she is fearlessly ambitious.
And then last but not least, what kind of friend am I?
Julie is the kind of friend who will always have your back, no matter what.
Damn, that feels nice to hear. So download Hinge and try voice prompts today. Then find someone worth deleting the app for. If you've been listening to the pod, you know I'm marking my calendar for the big sale from Last Bottle Wines, one of our wonderful sponsors. If you don't already know, they're a Napa-based online wine shop that offers 30 to 70% off retail. And the best part, there's no subscriptions, no fees, and no minimum purchase, just a daily email with really great wine. And as I mentioned, they're having a massive sale. Their marathon sale is coming up on March 28th and 29th. They flip that one wine per day rule on its head and instead offer back-to-back, two-back deals. That means wines are only up on the site for a couple minutes at a time. We got a preview order with the mini marathon package of some of their favorites, and I'm telling you, it's a sale you want to get in on. And the best part is we're offering Dateable listeners 10% off your first order with code DATEABLE. Sign up at lastbottlewines.com and use the code DATEABLE and find out why Last Bottle is the most fun way to discover and buy amazing wine.
Hi, I'm Yue Xu.
And I'm Julie Krafchick.
We're active daters turned dating sociologists.
Here to dive into everything modern dating and relationships.
Welcome to the Dateable Podcast. Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Dateable in our off season, like we're professional athletes training for the new season to start. We're going to kick some ass.
I like that analogy. Let's go with that.
Right? We're professional podcasting athletes training in the off season.
Hey, we have endurance. We are now getting close to season 18. That does not mean we've been running for 18 years, though. We often get that question. 8 years, not 18.
Yes.
But that's still a freaking load of endurance.
How many athletes can last 18 consistent seasons?
Not many.
A question to ask ChatGPT. I don't know any sports stats, so I'm just going to make it up and say top 10% of athletes can last more than 18 seasons. But it does feel like an endurance sport because we're constantly putting out content and we're constantly looking at new topics, new guests, and we're not running out of steam. Like, we're just going to keep going, like the Energizer Bunny.
I was going to say, dating truly is the gift that keeps giving because there's no like age that you tap out anymore either. First of all, people are entering dating pools at all ages and life stages. But also, even when you do find your partner, we always say you never stop dating. And being dateable doesn't mean being single. It's a continued state of mind.
Oh, isn't that true? And whenever we tell people that we do a dating podcast, eyes just light up like Christmas. Seriously. People just go, what? Let me tell you about my situation. Or even if they're not single, everyone has a story they want to share and everybody has a topic they want to discuss. It's fascinating.
I don't know if this has been happening to you, Yue, but recently I've been like seeing a lot of, like maybe friends of friends, like friendly acquaintances, but not people I talk to regularly. And a lot of them are listening to the podcast. And we clearly don't know who's listening to the podcast. We just see numbers. We don't see names. We won't be revealing that. And it's been like really nice to know that like people are here for the journey and they've been saying like how much it's been helping them, and it makes me feel really happy.
You know, what's funny is, so my new man friend has not listened. Well, he just listened.
Okay.
But because we were in Arizona visiting my friend Tina. Hey, Tina. And at dinner, she's like, oh, I listened to the latest episode about you. And he was very intrigued by what she was telling him about him. So he went back and listened, and he said there are some things that he would like to clarify, not right now, but in his head, he was kind of thinking, well, I need to clarify this. But the beauty of a podcast is once you put it out, you put it out there. So the content's already out there. He approves. And also there was nothing scathing or, crazy details about him on that show. But it's funny that my friend Tina was the one regurgitating details about him to him.
I love so much of the story because I know that Tina is one of the number one fans, and she's like, not in the dating scene at all. I've met Tina before. No. She's amazing. And it makes me really happy when I hear about people like that too. But also, okay, for anyone that missed it, because this episode did air around the holiday season, and hopefully you've been staying on Dateable, but we understand if things got a little hectic, but it's okay. You can go back. It's the end of year wrap episode where we talk about breakups, new relationships is what Yue is alluding to. She dropped a bomb on there. Is that like an old saying? I feel so old that I just said dropped a bomb.
I think is the bomb
I don't know.
The old saying, but I think you can still drop a bomb.
I can still drop a bomb.
Maybe not. Yeah.
Maybe not, actually.
maybe not. I don't think you can drop a bomb.
I feel like in today's world, that's not a good thing to say anymore.
Yeah, let's not. Nothing is related to bombs whatsoever.
No bombs are going off. Okay. Yue shared some news. I'll reframe it. She shared some news that she had a new man in her life is what you were referring to now. And I also shared about, the next steps of my relationship and living together, etc. So for anyone that missed it, go back. But I texted Yue right after. So we have our fabulous editor, Stefan, but I listen to the episodes after he edits them just to make sure, everything sounds good and don't have any feedback. Most of the times it's good to go. But with this one, I remember texting Yue after, and I was just like, I listened to this episode and it makes me so happy because you sound so happy. Yay. And you sound so different in the sense of like this. It's almost like this like pressure has been lifted a little. Like you have this attitude of, I want this to work. I want this to go somewhere, but like what's meant to be will be. And I'm not trying to like push something down a road it's not meant to go, but rather like see what happens. And I feel like even from talking to you post trip, your mindset feels different to me than it did even when you were in your last relationship.
Yeah. Something we're trying in this new relationship is this renewal process. Like every few months we'll renew the relationship, and we have an option to cancel if we want to. And I don't know what's going on TikTok, but I feel like that video that we did a while ago about the 6-month relationship is like going quote unquote viral. Like people are really catching up to this idea, and I'm really double downing, that's the right term, on this idea, because I think thinking about a relationship in 6-month increments makes it less daunting. It makes you less tied to the outcome, and it makes you more present in what you want to accomplish in the next 6 months. And even if you do not renew at the end of 6 months, I've been telling my man friend this, it's that it shouldn't be a surprise. It shouldn't be like, let's do that big reveal. Is it a yes or a no? It should not feel that way. You should be keeping each other updated the whole time. And whatever happens at the end of the 6 months, it's like, okay, yeah, I knew that was coming.
I always felt that way. It was like the worst is when you got blindsided and it just like out of nowhere, all of a sudden this person's breaking up with you and you think that it's on the right path. Like that was the worst. I remember saying that to my partner too. I'm just like, keep me in the loop so like there's no surprises if that happened. And,
Exactly.
I don't mean it like your relationship should be like under a microscope and you should be like constantly analyzing and seeing if there's red flags or if it's the right fit. But I do think like having a consistent check-in with yourself and your partner, because people do change or they do grow, or maybe that's working better with your relationship or maybe it's not. Like having that constant viewpoint into it, I think is really healthy instead of just being like, okay, we made this commitment, we're just doing it forever without ever like realizing if it's working for us.
Right. We do everything else in sprints. Why can't we do our relationships in sprints? And that comes with those checkpoints, and it comes with intentions and goals you want to set for yourself. I realize how much more powerful you can feel in a relationship if you're with the right partner, but how much more deflated you would feel if you're with the wrong partner. You can really go one trajectory or another. So I rather spend the next 6 months feeling extremely empowered with my partner and by my partner.
And it like seeps into the other parts of your life too. I feel like if you're like with someone that's uplifting, like everything else in life feels easier. And then if you're not, quite the opposite. But I do think I really like this idea of sprints because, you know, people maybe that aren't in the tech scene, but that's like a very tech word. I feel like I will forever have, you know, this engineering lingo of sprints in my mind. But yeah, you like commit to whatever it is in that sprint, you make it work. And then the next sprint, you figure out what's next, whether that's continuing on the same project or, you know, abandoning it and going for something different. And I think that really does make sense in terms of dating. And it really changes how we date, which ties into our episode this week. We're really excited to bring back one of our crowd favorites, Gabrielle Stone. This is us on her podcast. So it aired on her podcast, FML Talk, probably like 6 months ago at this point. It's been a bit, but we are excited to re-air it for all of our DATEABLE listeners because we know not everyone, you know, knows all the podcasts we're on. So we like to bring them to you directly to your feed as well.
Yeah, and she has definitely found a partner now who she feels energized by, who supports her in a way that she didn't feel with her previous partners. And the backstory, if you don't know about Gabrielle Stone, is she found her husband cheating, and then she entered into another relationship where she fell madly in love. And then just a day before leaving for a trip with him, he broke up with her. So she went on this trip anyway, alone. And then that's where she wrote her book. She's very inspired by this reset in her life. And she decided she was going to do relationships totally different coming out of this solo trip. And that's exactly what she's done. And look at the result. She was able to find a partner and not be so tied to the outcome, but really just, you know, have gratitude for the present moment that they have together and the life they are building together. She just had a kid with him. So it's a really like inspiring story. It energized me when we talked to her.
Totally. And we had her on our podcast. You can always go back and hear her whole story. But on this episode, we go into dating because clearly that's what we love to talk about. She calls the episode Playing the Fucking Dating Game because all of her episodes have the F word in them. But, you know, I think there is some element of what does it mean to play the fucking dating game in 2024? Because I think when I hear like play the game, I think of like, the game, the rules, like the really bad stuff. But the reality is like we are all in this dating scene, and how do you make the most of it? I really like that trend that was going around Instagram and TikTok of like dating ins and outs. And we put up some of our own, but I wanted to maybe take an opportunity to, you know, kind of go through both of what we think the parts of dating that are in and out of 2024, and also share some of the ones that our listeners submitted as well.
Perfect. Okay. I'll do some of the highlights. So out would be the love languages. We don't want to be tied to anything so static. Numbers game, no more like lining up as many dates as possible. And then comparing your timeline to other people's, because other people's timelines may not be the right one for you. And some of the major ins for 2024 would be fluffing season, out with cuffing season, and in with fluffing season, which is all about taking the time to fluff yourself up, to focus on yourself, self-love, self-care, and personal self-growth. And then also making the first move.
Yes.
This should no longer be a debate. Who should make the first move? You should always try to make the first move. Like that's in your control. That's that main character energy, right? That we want. And then also designing a love life that works for you. DIY your own love life. No need to say, well, Susie's neighbor's coworker met her husband at Whole Foods. Like, sure, that could have worked for other people, but what can you do for your own love life that you don't need to step in other people's shoes and walk their path. That's their life and not your life.
I love the DIY your love life. We're going to have a full episode about that maybe next week, but won't give too much away. Anyways, though, I think that also extends to dating. I hear this a lot. I was like talking to a friend the other day. We were actually watching a rerun of Millionaire Matchmaker. It is back on Netflix. What an amazing show. Tangent. But anyways, there was something that happened on that show, something very superficial of how people were judging. And my friend like made this comment of like, well, that's just like how dating works. That's normal. And I feel like this whole DIY, your love life, the relationship you want, it's like, it doesn't have to just be doing things because that's how it was. Like you decide how it works. You decide what matters. You decide all of that. Like, I think this concept is just so like empowering that we don't have to be just like, oh, well, I wait 3 days or I don't message first because that's how dating works. Like, we hear that all the time.
Yep.
I like all the ones that you touched on because they're more behavioral and things that we can actually control. I was thinking like also of what's in and out. And I want to like throw this out as a prediction, and I could be completely wrong, but I'll do it anyways. I think what's out for 2024 are traditional dating apps the way they are today.
Oh, interesting.
And what's in is more dating apps that cultivate in-person connection. And I think this has been done before. I don't want to say it's a revolutionary idea. It's certainly not. But I do think that like we go in waves a lot of what's working and what's not. And, you know, we've been hitting this inflection point for the last couple years. Like COVID clearly made everyone turn to online only primarily. And then we've been hitting this inflection point where it's still hard to meet people out and about, but everyone's getting increasingly frustrated with dating apps. So I think this is the year that we'll see more and more adoption to some of these types of alternatives that still use technology, but aren't just swiping on people, that part. And I think we'll also see the Tinders, the Hinges, and all the big players out there, Bumbles, step up to the plate and get a little more creative too, because they'll have to, because what is currently working can't go on forever. And you know, I'm a huge proponent of technology on dating apps, but I do think we're in need of a shakeup. Like, it just can't be like the same thing over and over again. It feels like insanity.
So you're saying everyone's going to turn to LinkedIn to date? Is that
Maybe.
the prediction?
I mean, I think a lot of those sites, like oddly, like, I mean, Instagram is clearly the lead here, but I do think people are finding other online ways to connect to people. I don't see that leaving anytime soon, but I think this notion of like swiping through people, like something's got to give.
For sure. Yeah. We can't be doing the same thing over and over again, which is what we've been doing with the dating apps. I'm also seeing just so many more community-based apps come up, like Local and Fit Date is another one. Even like Play Your Court, which I know is not a dating app, but a lot of people do meet people being matched up with a tennis partner.
Oh, okay. I was like, what is that?
You're like, what's that?
Yeah.
So just building community and bringing people to do something like that they have in common IRL is going to be a huge trend. Now, my major question then is, can these dating apps integrate that function into their current platform, or would they spin off and do something completely different? I don't know. Curious.
I mean, maybe it's time to bring back 500 brunches. Just saying.
I was actually thinking about that this morning, Julie. I thought this is the perfect time for 500 brunches.
It really is. People are just craving it. So 500 brunches was actually technically how UA and I met for the first time, but it was the company that I started pre-Dateable. And the idea was like, how do you meet more people organically? Because I was, in full transparency, frustrated by dating apps. The thought too was, okay, it can't just be dating or then you just get like a singles party meat market vibe. It needs to be just more organic, where people meet again like they did in high school and college and through activities, all the like. So I think there is something to that. I will say there was part of the reason why I stopped doing it was that it was logistically very challenging. And like Grouper was another one that existed in SF in New York. I don't know if it was other places, but did you ever do that one in UA, Grouper?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you would like go with like
dating.
3 of your friends or 2 other friends and you, and then you'd be matched up with another group of 3. It's just the logistics are challenging with all of these. There's that element of it that dating apps swiping don't have to deal with.
Well, that's why you start with a great idea and then you sell it to a big company like Match. And they'll put all the resources behind it for logistics. Because that's not something for you to figure out on your own. That's just way too much. But I love the idea that you don't know who you're going to meet, one, but you know you're going to do something you love, which is brunch.
Yes.
So you're guaranteed to have a good time either way. What if you added the extra dimension that at least one couple in this group is deemed a perfect match, like the show?
Oh, I like that.
Are you the one? But you don't know who it is. So you just have to figure it out during brunch.
I love that. I mean, I think obviously again, I'm going to say it again because I do feel like it stands repeating. I am pro dating app. I have met 2 partners on dating apps. Yeah. That being said, I did meet a serious ex of mine through 500 brunches, and I didn't even know he was interested in me because I was just like living my life, enjoying myself in that. Like, I didn't realize I was flirting with him. Like, I remember him like saying something like, "Oh, I could tell you were interested in me." And I'm like, really?
You're like what?
I thought you were attractive, but like beyond that, like I wasn't expending any energy there. But like because you're just in your natural state, I think there is something to that where with dating apps, you are showing up as like, am I going to date this person? So that energy, I think, can also in 2024 be brought over to dating apps. That actually helped me with my current partner, as I did have more of that energy when I met him than sizing it up, because we had just talked to Jeff Harry, one of our podcast faves, about making dating fun.
You could actually, for those of you who are listening to this and think this is a great idea, why not start your own supper club? My friend Jen did this with some of her friends, and every week they go to a different place to eat and everyone has to bring a new friend. So you get to meet new people. It doesn't have to be about dating. It can just be about expanding your network. End of the day, we're all looking for a community.
Yes.
And within that community, you are able to find your person because you've already established this baseline of shared interests. So it's such a great fucking idea to do that. And back to like your thoughts on dating apps, I don't think anybody needs to be pro dating apps, but you don't have to be anti dating apps.
Yeah.
Like that makes no sense to me. You can say, I don't use the dating apps. That's fine. But if you're like, I hate the dating apps, why would you hate something that was created and designed to help you date?
Yeah.
Come on. So yeah, just like you can just say in 2024, I'm going to rely less on the dating apps, but it's still a great resource.
I mean, I'm all for all of that, but I think that's why these dating apps need to do something, because why people are getting in that mindset is because it's not working, right? And it feels like there was a post in our Facebook group about how Hinge keeps everyone behind the rows, like all the good people you have to pay for. And that stuff does seem a little skeezy when you think about it. Like, I'm pro Hinge. I met my partner on it, but looking at that objectively, like that is kind of shitty. So like, I think dating apps need to figure out ways that authentically bring people together, and that also could be monetized. I think people will pay if it makes sense, but actively keeping people apart, it just distills that trust.
For sure. Yeah. But you would not have been exposed to these people before dating apps. So it's still better than the former.
You gotta just take it with a grain of salt and not think that it's like it's another avenue. Like it's not like I need to give up this other thing. But anyways, we're excited to see what happens in 2024, what shakes up. Maybe we'll still be swiping in 2025. I hope not.
Oh, God. Maybe they're going to be swiping up and down instead of left and right. Maybe that's going to be the biggest change.
If someone rolled that out, they were like, it's like when companies roll out like their new logo reveal and it literally looks like the same logo. And you're like, okay, thanks for the big announcement. That would be ridiculous if they're like,
if Tinder's like, fuck the swipe left, swipe up.
This is going to make dating great. Okay. Well, we could go on all day. We got some really good ones in, but we might as well just get into it with Gabrielle, because we really do go through state of the dating world and, how do you play the game in 2023/now 2024?
Yes.
Okay, well, before we go into it with Gabrielle, at Dateable Podcast, that's where you find us. Instagram, TikTok, like Yue said, there's a video that's getting a lot of attention on TikTok. So come follow us.
Don't know why.
We need followers over there. But also, Big Dateable Energy, that is the new Facebook group. You can find us there. Search BDE, Big Dateable Energy, on Facebook, and you can join the group. Also, last announcement, we are still trying to hit that 1K. I sound like a broken record, but we are getting closer and closer. But if you've not yet dropped us a rating and review, please do so. It greatly helps us continue to get great guests like Gabrielle that we're talking to, be guests on their podcast, and also, continue to bring you good guests for the next season.
Yeah.
Okay, well, before we go into it, let's hear a message from our sponsors.
This episode is sponsored by Via. We all know there are things that can help set the mood in the bedroom, but did you know a little THC could also do that? Yes, Via has developed a unique blend of pleasure-enhancing cannabinoids, libido-strengthening herbs, and a low dose of THC all into one mind-blowing gummy called High Love. This gummy, wow, it will awaken your senses, increase blood flow, and intensify any sexual experience. I've been pleasantly surprised by the High Love gummies because it is just the right amount of THC for me to have a good time without feeling sleepy. And hey, if THC is not your thing, Via also offers a wide array of other gummies without it. And everything legally ships in 50 states with discreet packaging directly to your door. So if you're over 21, you can get 15% off and a free pack of award-winning Dreams THC plus CBN sleep gummies with our exclusive code DATEABLE at viahemp.com. That's VIIAHEMP.com. Let the gummies work their magic. Head to viahemp.com and use the code DATEABLE to receive 15% off and one free sample of their Sleepy Dream gummies. That's viahemp.com and use the code DATEABLE at checkout. Take your passion and pleasure to a whole new level with High Love from Via Hemp.
As you know, I recently left my corporate job and I've been in total recovery mode, all about self-care. One of my new routines is the nighttime shower before bed. There's just something about washing away the day and that reflection that's been super helpful for me. I've been using one of our partners, Osea's Mega Moisture Duo. This combo body oil and body lotion are so freaking incredible. It literally feels like I'm at a spa. I realized that the secret is seaweed and other skin level ingredients that are normally reserved for face products. And that's why I was so excited when Osea became one of our partners. And, we're so grateful for partners like this because one, they keep the show going, but they're also super good for all of our listeners and for our own well-being. So if you want to have that nighttime bliss like I am doing, you can get 10% off your first order site-wide with code DATEABLE at oseamalibu.com. You'll get free samples with every order and free shipping on orders over $60. So head to oseamalibu.com and use the code DATEABLE for 10% off. Let us know which products you end up going with. Share them in social. Super excited to see what you end up choosing. Okay, let's get to Gabrielle's episode.
All right, y'all. Today is a fun one. I am joined by Yue and Julie, who host the DATEABLE podcast. And I brought them on and we were like, let's talk dating, let's talk relationships. And we ended up just shooting the shit and laughing our asses off the whole time. So I hope you guys do that with us. It was so much fun. We covered so many different topics about modern fucking dating and like the bullshit that brings along, and really just ridiculous stories from all of our lives. It's always fun when we get 3 people on the podcast. I don't do it often because it can tend to be hectic, but this was so well worth it and so much fun. And I cannot wait for you guys to hear this episode. So sit back and enjoy this fun girl talk episode with the DATEABLE girls. Julie and Yue, welcome to FML Talk. I'm very excited to get into this threesome today. How the hell are you guys doing?
I've never had a threesome on an afternoon, but for the record, I've never had a threesome period. So.
I love that you had to state that, like, but actually I've never had one period. So,
well, by this definition, we have them all the time, UA. But
right.
That's true. That's true.
Well, I have had a threesome in real life, but I have not done a lot of threesomes on the podcast. So I'm excited to get into this today.
We are too.
So can you guys, one of you, give us a little kind of rundown on what your guys' podcast is? I know we've done a podcast swap because I love the content that you put out on your show, but just give everybody a little bit of background on who each of you are and how you came to do the podcast together.
Sure. I mean, at the most fundamental level, it's all about modern dating, but we realize modern dating bleeds into every other facet of your life, whether you're single in a relationship, you're coupled off, you're thrupled off, whatever the formation that you're in. It's about human relationships. So in the 16 seasons we've been doing our podcast.
Holy shit.
We've really, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We started in 2016. Yep.
Wow, you guys, I'm on season 5 and I'm exhausted. Like, are you guys okay?
Dating content just never ends is what we learned.
Jesus,
never ends.
That's
We're
impressive.
barely alive.
Yeah.
But at least we can say we are totally different people now since doing the podcast. We date totally differently. We do relationships totally differently. We look at love completely differently. So it's partly therapy for us and partly entertainment. But our main message is you're not in this alone. Whether you're in or out of relationships, you're not in it. You're not in any of that alone.
That's right. I love that.
We like to call ourselves active daters turned dating sociologists.
Nice.
Because that truly is like what we're looking at is we're trying to understand why do we date the way that we do. And especially in today's world, with technology, with just the abundance of options, it's a whole different game. And a lot of our thought patterns and the way we date are rooted back to the old way of doing things and more traditional norms. And it's a struggle sometimes to kind of unlearn your learnings, essentially, of how do you start to figure out what do you really want and design the love life that you want versus what is it that you were told that you should want? Or how do you think love works? Like all this stuff, it's a constant unlearning.
Totally. I totally agree. And I think sometimes of like the earlier generations that came before us, like I'll say things to my mom and she's like, what the fuck, Gabrielle? And I'm like, no, this is actually like very common in today's society. But it's to look back at like, some of those older ways of dating and doing relationships that you mentioned, it seems foreign and crazy to us to have to unlearn. So like imagine what it's like for our parents and our grandparents that are like, we were talking the other day about, a potential gender reveal. And my mom was like, what the fuck is a gender reveal? Like, I don't understand what
how do you set fires
today. Right. That's exactly what she said. She was like, these fucking millennials, they're just out setting fires in the forest. Like, I don't understand. What are some of the key things like that comes up a lot when you guys are discussing the older ways of dating and doing relationships that you need to unlearn? Because I'm really interested in that.
Just this like one size fits all approach. If you look at any of the rom-coms from the 90s, if you look at any of the relationship advice books, it's all the same advice. And it's always based on some sort of very heteronormative gender roles, very binary rules. This is what you must do. You got to wait 3 days. You can't be the one to be reaching out first. And it just doesn't work for everybody. There's one size fits all approach. Also, the game playing is just so from generations ago. It's like so antiquated. Game playing does not get you true love.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And in today's world too, it's like no one has time for the games, right? There's 100 people at your fingertips. If you're going to be playing the game, someone's moving on. They're not waiting to play this game.
100%. And what I always tell, my girlfriends, because they'll always come to me for advice for better or worse. And I'm very straightforward. Like I did the bullshit games in like high school and left them there after I graduated.
Mhm.
And I'm like, you guys, if you're doing the whole, oh, I'm going to wait for this person to text me and then I'm going to be coy and then I'm going to like maybe keep dating someone else to like make sure that they don't relax in the relationship. It's like by the time you're done playing all these fucking games, this person doesn't even like you. He likes this
No.
version of you that
Yeah.
you created and presented to them. And then it's like, so now you're 4 months into the relationship and yeah, you've like technically bagged him and you're in the
Right.
relationship and you're like, yeah, I got him. But like now you have to like start to show your true colors and be like, oh shit, well, this is
Yeah.
actually who I really am. Do you like this person too?
Yeah.
It's such a
You're
mess.
a con artist.
We actually
Yes.
talk about this all the time as people show their date selves. It's this
Mm.
formulated version. And I think a lot of it is we think that that's the way that it works, right? We
Right.
read the rules,
Mhm.
we know the steps, but it doesn't work that way. You just end up being inauthentic. I remember for so many years, like my friends were just like, I don't understand. Like you're a social person, you get along with people. Like, why is dating so difficult? But I
Mm.
was doing all these things like, I'm not going to tell them I had a good time because I don't want to be
Mhm.
the first one.
Right.
It's like that's not how I acted in any other part of life. Like, why was I doing this in dating? But
Yeah.
you're told that's what you do and that's how it works.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends that fit into that category as well. Like they put on the dating persona. When I went on my first date with my now fiance, I mean, by the time this airs, he'll probably be my husband.
Ooh.
And when we went on our first date, I, first of all, didn't think it was a date. And so I showed up in like Lululemon leggings and a sweatshirt, no
Yeah.
makeup on, and proceeded to like word vomit about my exes for like the crazy situation that I had gone through for like the fucking whole 2 hours. But like I was so raw and so authentic and I was like dropping F-bombs and like just like not giving a shit about how I presented. And that motherfucker left that date and was like, that's the woman I'm going to marry. I
Yeah,
love
he's like,
her.
Yeah.
love at first sight.
No, but
I'm
that is
done.
so, I think that is what it is, though. We present ourselves and it's not the
Mhm.
real version. Also, like rom-coms totally fucked us in the sense that it's an unrealistic expectation of what relationships are. Like Jerry
100%.
Maguire, you complete me. Like, no, that's not
Yeah.
true.
Fuck
Yeah.
that.
Well, and
Like-
also I'm going to start throwing some of my friends under the bus, but I won't name them for obvious reasons. But I had this one girlfriend who was always like, I refuse to get on dating apps because I am going to bump into my significant other
Oh.
at a Barnes
Oh,
and Noble
mm-mm.
while drinking a latte. And I was like, bitch, you are
Yep.
going to be reading a lot of fucking books because
Yeah.
that's not how that should happen. Sometimes, I mean, yeah, sometimes can really authentic, cute meets happen. Totally. Absolutely. But rom-coms fucked us up the ass because they were like,
Mhm.
no, you don't have to get online to meet someone. You don't have to be set up on a blind date. Like you can casually be strolling and bump into
Right.
someone, lock eyes and realize, oh, I'm going to have babies with this person. Let's go. Like it's not how it
Right.
happens in real life.
That's exactly the problem is that these rom-coms and these antiquated dating rules, they all focus on getting into a relationship. They don't focus on staying in a relationship.
Right.
So you
Right.
romanticize the whole climatic way you're going to meet someone and that story you're going to tell your kids when you get married. But hello, how do you fucking stay in that relationship and have it be a sustainable, healthy relationship? None of these movies talk
No.
about that.
Yeah.
No.
100%.
I think the other piece too is, of course, if you bump into someone at the grocery store and you have a wonderful relationship, that's fantastic. We're not going to undermine that. But what we see people do is they put so much weight on the how they met story that they actually don't look at some of the real red flags and what we
Right.
call the settling paradox. It's like they're so afraid to settle that they end up settling for bad treatment because of this meet cute or the good on paper qualities or whatever it is that we've been told
Yeah.
is what makes someone a desirable partner.
Yeah. Oh my God. Case in point. So when I met my ex-husband who ended up cheating on me and like turned into like a horrible sociopath of a person, we bumped into each other at a club. I end up going over to his table with all of his friends and he looks at me and he's like, don't think this is weird, but is your name Gabrielle? And I was like, yeah, like weird. And he was like, I was in a night school class with you back in high school. And I remember when I saw the news about the boyfriend that I was with at the time, unfortunately passed in a car accident. He's like, I remember when I saw the news about your boyfriend and I wanted to like reach out to you and I looked at your MySpace because it was that long ago. And of course, I'm sitting here going, oh my God, this is so endearing. And he like cares about my feelings. Now I'm like, that's fucking stalker behavior. That's scary. Like, what? That's weird. That's fucking weird. And so it's like,
but you're like, it's fate.
Yeah, totally. You get those love goggles on and you're like, oh, but this is going to be such a cute story to tell our kids one day. No, run.
Well, it's love conquers all. They'll fight for you. You know, all the stories we were told that when you actually translate them are kind of scary when you think about it.
I want to circle back to the whole presenting as someone different because I have one friend who shall remain nameless. And I still, till this day, will see her with her significant other. And I'm like, do you ever like show up as I know you? Because it's the same as like if she's at like a party or when she's around other people, it's like, the dial gets turned up. And, you know, like when you call people that you don't know, like if you're calling your kid's school and you're like, hi, this is Mrs. So-and-so. And it's like, that's not how you talk. You know, it's like, that's your customer service voice. It's like, that is who presents whenever we're like in public settings or there's other people around. And then when it's just the two of us, it's like raw and authentic. And like, I'm like, does your boyfriend know that like there's two of you in there? Like, has he met the other one? It's kind of crazy to me how people can continuously do that, like beyond just the first few dates.
And you've called her out.
I have.
What did she say? What was her response?
Just that it's like different energy and that it's, you know, a different energy with different people and that it's not, you know, something that's put on. It's just like her more, you know, put together self, which doesn't make really a ton of sense to me.
Yeah. I mean,
that's really interesting.
I see how like we all have different sides, sure, but at the core, we're usually the same person. So to me, that either means that you're adapting for some reason that you don't feel truly comfortable, or you don't know yourself. You become like a dating chameleon, just merging to whoever.
Yes, or it could I love that term, a dating chameleon.
It could also point to some red flags in the relationship. And I'll give you this example. So back to how Julie and I first met. We met in San Francisco. I had just moved there from years in Beijing and New York. And Julie had been dating in San Francisco for most of her adult life. So we had a lot to talk about because there was a lot of compare and contrast. And we were deeply embedded in the social scene in SF, and we would go out all the time. But I remember when I first started dating my current partner, there was an event that Julie and I would go every year. I brought him to this event. And at the end of this event, Julie's like, you're acting different. Like there's something different about you. And I remember in that moment, I was like, I think this means that I am not feeling comfortable in this relationship right now. It was bringing up a lot of anxiety and insecurity where I felt like I couldn't be authentically me. Right. So that was I was so glad that she called me out because to me, that was such a great way to surface something that I wasn't even privy to in my own relationship.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point that you bring up, that different odd behavior that you don't normally identify with as your own behavior is often a time to look within and be like, okay, what could this possibly be leaning me towards? Like really investigate that, because that's a huge flag to be like, oh, okay, like what could be going on? And it's usually a much deeper meaning than just like, oh, I had more energy tonight. And
right.
I mean, this shit stems deep too, right? Like we've all been dating or, you know, in another life, like when you're coming together with someone, let's say you're meeting in your 30s, that's 30 years of your history and their history. It's hard to just somehow unlearn that, especially with these bad dating books and these rom-coms and all the way that society projects love and relationships. A lot of times we don't even consciously know that we're doing things.
100%. That's subconscious bullshit, man. Just like runs our life until we recognize it. So you guys have talked in the past about the difference between chemistry and anxiety is, and I'm interested to dig into that topic a little bit because I think It's really interesting because anxiety and excitement can feel so similar. Like the feeling of absolute dread and not wanting to do something is very parallel to the feeling of being so excited, like you're about to walk out on stage and like accept the biggest award of your life, which is confusing as fuck. You think like the universe would be like, let's make these two really important feelings feel a little more different, but no. So what do you think is the difference between chemistry and anxiety?
You bring up such a good point, is that they are like kind of two sides of the same coin. So it is hard to know sometimes. I think it comes down to, where is it coming from? A lot of times in dating, it goes back to our date self, right? We're trying to impress. We're trying to be liked. Is it coming from that? Like when you ask yourself when you went on a date, did they like me? Or is the conversation more around, did I like them? That's a very different dynamic of how you're approaching this date. So if it's coming from this place of validation and trying to win them over and be liked, a lot of times that's going to come from anxiety. But if it's genuine and you feel confident, like I remember when I first met my partner, I was in a really good place in my life that I was comfortable being single. I was okay with it. If that's what life was, it wasn't that bad. So when we first met, we had a really good time, but it was more the statement of, okay, if we see each other, great. If we don't, then I'll be okay. I'll move on. But when you're clawing for that attention and, reassurance through dating, a lot of times that's when you're staring at your phone, waiting for them to text. Yeah. That's when you're counting down the days. And I've been there before. So I remember this side very, very well. Yeah. And you're just expecting someone to do something opposed to living your life. And if they do it, then great. And it's almost this unsaid expectation that eats at you as you wait.
Right. And I think that goes back to kind of like, if you're in a place where that person is adding to your life, it shouldn't feel like anxiety. You know what I mean? If like they're coming in and you're like, I'm good, I'm solid, like I'm a fucking 10 out of 10. But if you want to come in and add to my life, great, let's do that and let's party. Then I feel like it's more of the chemistry side. If you're not, and you're looking for someone to kind of fill that void and you're like really desperate to be in a connected relationship, then it's the anxiety side of the coin. And I feel like that's when people start to lean into the games. And it's like, oh God, okay, well, he finally texted me. Should I wait 3 days? Because it took him 2 days to text me. And then like, and it becomes this whole fucking shit show of just like giving each other the runaround instead of being straightforward.
Right. I would argue that most chemistry felt by people stems from anxiety. Because when you look at, when you question it from our research, I put that in air quotes because we've done a lot of research with singles. We ask, oh, you felt chemistry with this person on your date. Why so? Oh, because he seems so mysterious, because his life seems so elusive. I'm not sure when he's going to call me next, or I'm not sure, he was hard to read or she was hard to read. It was hard to understand if he or she liked me back. There was a lot of these question marks, which is what leads to anxiety. So therefore, we feel like that is where that chemistry comes from. It's from that unknowing. Now, instead of chemistry, we should be looking for connection. Right. When you feel like, when you come from a date and you say, I feel really deeply connected to that person, your friends may ask why. And you say, oh, we talked about something really meaningful for hours. Yeah. That's connection. That doesn't come from anxiety. We focus so much on chemistry that we feel like if we don't feel the butterflies on a first date, you're not attracted. Yeah. And that's awful, because it just means that you didn't get to a place of connectedness. Yeah. To feel any sort of chemistry.
Yeah. I love that. And also, like, sometimes the butterflies are not like happy love butterflies. They're like intuition, like flap as hard as you can. So she runs away from this walking red flag. Yeah, 100%. And all of the things you just listed, like, oh, he was mysterious. I don't really know if he liked me. It was elusive. Like, that all sounds fucking terrible. Like, terrible. You need to look at why, if that's you need to look at why you think those things are a good thing. Like, there is nothing sexier than a man sitting down across from you and being like, you seem awesome. I would love to call you after this. I'm going to call you after this. And like taking initiative and being very clear with like how he's feeling and where he's at, so that you're not stuck playing a fucking guessing game.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think you raised a really good point, Yue, because like what I was talking about earlier, when you're at ease with yourself and you're coming into dating not as, a validation, but more as additive, oftentimes you aren't feeling chemistry. It is that connection. It's more of that calm. And that's because you're looking for that. You're turned off by the people that are playing these games. Like that isn't attractive
Exactly.
anymore.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's like a very important place to get to. Even when my girlfriends call me and we'll like repeat some of the games that are going on, I'm like, why is this fun for either of you? Like, this sounds horrible. Like, you guys should both just
exhausting.
like shake hands and walk away now. Like, call it a loss early on. Like, let's not waste any more time, guys.
Like some of the qualities we describe people when we first meet someone and we describe why we're attracted to them. I would challenge you all to map that against an actual relationship. Would you want to use those same descriptors for your partner?
Yes.
So, he seems so mysterious. Would you want to be dating someone that you want to describe as mysterious?
Right.
Oh, his life is so busy. He's traveling all the time. Would you want to be dating someone who's traveling all the time and never home? It's like the things that we look for in early dating are not what we look for in a relationship. They don't map against each other at all.
Oh my God, that's such a good point. I hope everybody really hears that loud and fucking clear.
And like with anxiety too, I don't want to undermine actual anxiety because that is a very real thing. And I admit, like I still get anxiety. I always in dating, I got anxiety if I was going to get like that text back or like the plans would happen. But the key is finding someone that doesn't give you that anxiety. Like from an early point, a big part of it was that I started to shift what I was looking for to focus on someone that was more consistent over like fun, because those types of people end up being the ones that give you the anxiety and you think it's chemistry.
Yeah.
So that was a big part, is shift what you're actually looking for in the first place. That doesn't mean you're sacrificing on other aspects. You're just paying attention more to how you feel with that. And also, like, I remember telling my partner that, okay, there's a lot of things. The one thing I have is texting. If I don't hear back for a couple hours, I do get anxiety. And he met me. He's like, okay, I'll be conscious of it.
Yeah.
So I think that we can't say that we're never going to have anxiety in dating. That might not be realistic, especially if you are someone that is predisposed to anxiety.
Yeah.
But it's how do you recognize it, manage it, and talk about it, and look at what matters in a partner and who's going to bring it out or not.
Yeah, 100%. The communication is so, like, half the time someone doesn't even know it's an issue. And if you just let them know, they can start to like do things to appease it if they're the right person for you.
Let's hold that thought for a quick message.
The whole not texting back and taking forever, like I have girlfriends that do that and I want to shake them. Like if I don't answer a text message in like an hour and a half to 2 hours, I'm dead and you should send someone to my house. Like, I just don't get why people, it's like, and you know, not to throw men under the bus, but men come up with like the stupidest excuses and then women will be like appeasing those excuses. Like, oh, he's been really busy and he's had, you know, like tests at school and he had to take care of his mom and you know it's been like really difficult at work. And it's, you know, when you're with the right person, they can be doing all of those things and like 10 others and still find time to text you throughout the day because they fucking want to. If they want to, they will. So stop excusing bare minimum fucking behavior, please.
We always say, we're like, you don't need to be your date's PR agent. You don't need to sit there and justify bad behavior. And I think that's why it's so important to get clear of what matters to you, because then you can at least objectively spot it and decide, okay, this isn't really what I want.
Yes, absolutely. So let's, from bare minimum behavior, let's talk about situationships because I get
the
DMs.
Definition.
I get DMs about situationships all the fucking time. And people are like, well, now I'm in a situationship. How do I make it a relationship? How do I like change now that it's already like 5 months in and he's comfortable just having sex with me? So how can we start to recognize like bare minimum behavior and taking off of those love goggles so we don't end up fucking ourselves in the long run?
I think first and foremost, you have to know yourself so well, because so many of us suffer from what we call cool girl syndrome, CGS, where you're like in the beginning of getting into a situationship, you're like, no, it's cool. Let's keep it casual. I'm not looking for anything serious. Let's see where this goes. If you know yourself well enough to know that none of your situationships ever end well, protect yourself from the beginning and say, let's see where things go. I do want to explore this. But there will be a point where we probably need to move this to out of a situationship into a relationship. I want to make that clear. It's not tomorrow, but it's eventually. So if your feelings change or you decide that you no longer want to take us in that direction, let me know. Let's keep each other updated. Situationships are this layover that people get stuck in. And they can't find their destination. They're like, where's my next flight? I don't know. I'm just going to stay in this layover forever. And it's the worst situation, no pun intended, but it's the worst situation you can put yourself in because you're constantly in limbo and you are compromising your own needs to just come off as cool and chill.
Yeah, which never like works out for you in the long run. I love the analogy of having a layover. You're like, bitch, I was trying to get to Hawaii and I've been in fucking Texas for 4 months now. Like,
I'm in Idaho.
That is the definition of a situationship right there. I've been in Texas for 4 months now.
I love it. And I don't even know when situationships became a thing. Like it used to be, oh, we're dating. And then we
friends with benefits.
We put a label on it. Right. I guess it's like the new improved version of friends with benefits.
Because you were never friends anyways. I think it's just got a label. I feel like this has been around forever. So UA and I, we think one of the biggest problems in modern dating is what we call relationship chicken. Basically, that no one wants to, put themselves out there. No one wants to show their cards, make that move. They're doing the exact opposite of what they actually want. They want to have a monogamous relationship, yet they're hedging their bets by dating 10 people at once to protect themselves. With situationships, no one wants to have that conversation because you fear that the other person is going to reject you or not meet your needs or not be there on the same page. But like we said, being in that layover is so much worse because you're now just living in a fantasy of a relationship and you're cutting yourself off to having an actual relationship. I don't know about you two, but I feel like anytime I've been in one of these situationships before they were called situationships, I was not open to actual people that would be a good partner.
No.
I was stuck on this person that wasn't giving me what I ultimately wanted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we've talked a lot about this on the show before. When you're attracting those people, it's because you have those subconscious beliefs that your brain is trying to attract these people to play out those fucked up scenarios in different ways so that your brain can be like, see, that belief that we think about, like, it's true, instead of just healing that shit and attracting someone different and healthy. So I'm so right there with you on that.
Yeah, or it's that we're not really ready for a relationship. I remember when I was in a situationship, my best friend was just like, you say you want a relationship, but I don't think you do because you wouldn't be in this if you actually wanted a relationship.
Yeah.
And we just think it's the default that we're supposed to be in a relationship or it's something to fit in with our friends because everyone else is pairing off.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just getting clear that like you either don't want that right now or realizing that you have some work to do to heal some of this past stuff that's preventing you from being in an actual relationship.
Yeah. Absolutely agree with that. How would you guys give some tips on demanding your worth, whether it's like being stuck in a situationship or going into something new and really wanting to kind of set those boundaries to make sure you're being treated the way that you want to be treated?
Well, the last thing you want to do is to abruptly ask, what are we doing? What are we here? Are we just going to be like this forever? Because this happens. We build up that resentment because we haven't been communicating our needs along the way. And then all of a sudden you blow up and ask, what are we? The ultimate question. So one of the biggest pieces of advice we would give people is keep people updated along the way. If you're starting to catch more feelings, let that person know. And if they're scared off by that, they were not right for you anyway.
Thank you.
Right,
Say
right?
it again for the people in the back.
You want someone who is aligned with your feelings, not someone who you are scared to scare. I mean, you think that you have to walk on eggshells around because you don't want to scare them off. That's not the person you want to be with. Again, map that to an actual relationship. Would you want to be with someone like that?
Right.
The second piece of advice we would give to people is when you have the conversation, start with a positive. You're not demanding a relationship. You're saying, I really like spending time with you.
Yeah.
I actually want to spend more time with you. And by doing that, I would love more of a commitment, like in the form of a relationship. Where we currently are, it's undefined. It makes me feel anxious. It makes me feel uneasy. But I would feel so much more comfortable. And I think I could allow myself to like you even more if we had something defined.
Yeah.
It's simple. Yeah. And it comes from a place of love and not from a place of, hey, what are we doing here?
Yeah, 100%.
Honestly, I don't think it's demanding at all, right? Like the second you find yourself demanding, you're probably not in the right relationship or situationship or whatever it is. I really think it's getting clear of what you want and not being the cool girl anymore or whatever is hiding your actual needs. Getting crystal clear. We like to call it people say they're taking a dating sabbatical when they get frustrated by dating. We like to say, take a dating vacation,
Yes.
Use that time intentionally. Don't just uninstall the apps, but get clear about what is it you actually want. And how freaking awesome you are. Because, if you start to believe that too, like we said earlier, you're not going to have the tolerance for these people that are not meeting you. And it's like shedding the date layer again. Like if you had a friend and they weren't, let's say they were flaking all the time on plans and you've been friends for a while, you probably would just talk to them about it.
Right.
So why can't we do that with our dates? Like, even if we haven't been dating super long, it doesn't have to be a confrontation. It can just be a conversation. And we always are afraid to do that. We're like, we can't bring things up or we can't state what we actually want. I was guilty of this for years, that like I always thought it was like this big deal. So I would just like suppress it and then you get resentful. But the more you can just say it in a calm way that's stating what you actually want, then you see if someone can meet you. And if they can't, then you move on. You don't need to demand anything.
Yes, amen. It's like literally it just comes back to communication and ask for what you want, give them a chance to meet that. And if not, thanks, nice to see you, goodbye. It's like very simple.
Someone else will.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you next.
That's right. Okay, so you guys have been doing this podcast for 16 years, which is shocking to me.
Seasons.
Not 16.
7 years.
Sorry. 16 seasons. You're like, thanks.
We'd be real legit if we were 16 years.
We started when we were 10.
16 seasons. So I can imagine that you would have at least one kind of outrageous or ridiculous dating story. Does any come to mind? And I'm sorry for putting you on the spot. I hate when people are like, can you give us a time? And I'm like, oh God. But do you have any like kind of ridiculous dating stories?
I have one that comes to mind.
Great.
So
take it away, Julie.
Go.
Actually, we first started doing this more as dating stories. And we realized that people always thought their stories were more interesting than they really were. And we pivoted more to like talking about topics that are more applicable to all. But there was one that does stand out to me that actually happened to a friend of UA and I's. And she went on this date. And it was a second date. So they'd already met each other.
I know which one now.
You know what I'm talking about. They already knew each other. But, it was already off to a bad start. I remember actually being with her that day. And it was around 5:00. She hadn't heard from him. No confirmation where they were going. It was this loose plan. Like when you have a date, but do you have a date? It's very confusing.
Right.
Where it really doesn't need to be. I don't know why it's so hard. Anyways, she already kind of went in being like, I'm annoyed by this guy, which is also not a great place to be when you're starting off a date that way. Eventually, he came through with a plan, and it was to go to a corn dog festival at this, like, what would you call it? Like, it was like street, like
outdoor, food truck place.
Food truck place. Yeah. Okay. So it's outdoors, which is key to the story. So anyways, she goes to the corn dog contest or whatever it was, already annoyed, already like this guy took forever to come up with a plan, and this is his plan. We're going to eat corn dogs. Anyways, she goes, they're sitting, eating their corn dog, and she can like feel that, it's not going super well. Like she's annoyed by him. It's just not jiving super well. But anyways, he goes to the bathroom, and I remember texting her being like, how is the state? And she's like, oh, it was okay. I don't know. It's not the best. He's in the bathroom right now, though, so I got to go. And then like 20 minutes later, she texts me back and she said he never came back from the bathroom. He basically just what we call bathroom bailed. And because it was an outdoor venue, that there was no wait, he didn't have to come back through a door. And then he eventually texted her and was just like, we both know this isn't a match. So I left.
Whoa. What a dick move, dude. I was like, going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Like, did he eat a bad corn dog? Is he shitting his brains out in the bathroom? Right. What a dick move. Like, just be like, hey.
Yeah.
Let's
we both
wrap it
know
up.
This isn't working, right? Like she wasn't super into it. It was clear.
Right.
Just come back and talk about it.
Yeah.
And now they're married.
No,
shut up. Oh. Can you
that
imagine?
Would be amazing.
People chemistry.
People are out there looking for their cute meat, and they're just like, just keep going. You might end up at a corn festival, and it'll be fucked from the beginning. But then you'll be married.
And then he'll leave you into the bathroom. Everyone's like, "Wait, you're going to the bathroom? Are you going to come back?
Yeah, please? Can I go with you?"
Oh my God. She's like, I now have abandonment issues anytime we're in a public place. Great.
Right. Yeah. Nobody can ever go to the bathroom in front of me.
Oh my God. I love it. That's great.
That was a really great. That was the one I was thinking of too, Julie, right away.
Yeah.
Always that one. But I think another standout episode that we did. So we did one episode with a woman who was dating someone who was into diapers. So this guy had a diaper fetish. Right,
wait, I'm sorry. Wait.
He really liked women wearing diapers. It really turned him on. And this was her first time encountering this. So we interviewed her and kind of her. So. It was her experience. It was very lighthearted and also just fascinating hearing it from her perspective. And after that episode airs, we get an anonymous email from a guy saying, I want to tell my side of the story as someone with a diaper fetish. And because she told it from the receiving end, I like to explain why I have a diaper fetish.
My God. Not the same guy.
Not the same guy. Which
so this is multiple fucking weird people out there. Okay, great. Good to know.
We get messages all the time people. I don't know if we're just coming up first in SEO for diaper fetishes, but we always get messages for people.
Oh my God.
How do you think we lasted 16 years? Okay. Thank you, diaper
16
fetish.
16 years. We've known.
So we have him on the show because we're like, let's do it, right? And he's, at the time, we didn't use video. It was just all audio. He didn't want to give us his name or anything like that. But we get on the call with him and he sounded fucking hot. You know how some people just have a really hot voice?
Yeah.
Me and Julie were doing the recording together and we're like, damn, he sounds hot.
Oh my God.
And we're having this conversation with him. He works in finance, totally normal upbringing. He's like, I'm not your typical someone with a kinky fetish.
That's not kinky. That's fucking weird. I'm sorry to be judgmental, but and I need to know so many details. Do they like you to be naked in the diaper, or is it I want you to wear it under your clothes so no one else knows shit?
Well, we have a full episode if you want to listen to it.
There are many differing degrees of a diaper fetish. His preference was just, once a quarter that his fiance would put on some diapers and walk around the house. She could be doing chores or just sitting there watching TV. It really turned him on. And he can actually remember the first time he saw something like a commercial on TV when he was a kid, and it was a spoof or something, and a woman was wearing a diaper, and it really turned him on. He was really into it.
I wish listeners could see Gabrielle's face right now.
I'm so horrified right now.
So his only thing was I'm not trying to fuck her in a diaper. I just really enjoy seeing her, the aesthetic of watching my fiance walking around in a diaper. We get off that call. And Julie and I had such like a real conversation. We're like, okay, if we meet the man of our dreams and he's normal in every aspect and he has like a great family, a great job, and he's hot. And all he wants us to do is just wear a diaper like once a quarter. I fucking do it. I will put on a fucking diaper for him.
We both said that in unison. We're like, maybe it's not that bad anymore because we get it in the same way that you did.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, the first thing that it makes me think about, not to go too dark, is like, does he have kids and like, does he change their diapers and like that? I don't know. It's just like, a little creepy to me that it's like
he does someday.
Child.
We should do a follow-up episode.
Yeah, actually, who knows? You're right.
That's a little worrisome to me. I've heard some weird shit that might top it for me. I mean, did he say if he liked them to like use the diaper? Did he want them to like soil the diaper?
No,
he didn't, but some people do.
Yeah.
Some people do.
Yes. He just liked the aesthetics of looking at a woman in a diaper.
Gabrielle's facial expressions are killing me right now.
I'm so disturbed, you guys. Oh my God. What a way to fucking end this episode. Okay. Can you guys tell everyone where the diaper episode exists? Tell everybody where the podcasts are and where they can find each of you on social media, please.
Well, you can always go to our website. It's Dateable Podcast. It's dateablepodcast.com. And you can search for Diaper Fetish Part 1 and Diaper Fetish Part 2.
I'm dead.
Or put it into Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're everywhere. And then at Dateable Podcast, I was going to say we don't have a video. I thought we maybe did, but he wouldn't let us do any videos. But we have many other videos.
No, we can reenact it, I guess.
Oh my God. Unbelievable. And what is your personal social media so people can come find you guys as well?
So you can find us on Instagram at Dateable Podcast, and that links out to our personals. And we have a very small following on TikTok. It's also at Dateable Podcast. You could just go on just to laugh at how small our following is.
Awesome. I love it. And I am petitioning to get a diaper video posted in the near future.
We'll do it for you. With you.
Just for you, Gabrielle.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, guys.
Thanks, Gabrielle.
I want to thank Yue and Julie so much for coming on. Make sure if you guys loved this episode, go check out their podcast, Dateable. I did a guest spot on their show a while back, which was also wildly fun. So you can go search for that. And it's just a fun show that they have, obviously tapped into the horror stories of dating and relationships and all of that bullshit. So if you are loving all of that type of content, head over to their show and check it out. I hope you guys laughed along with us, and I will see you all next week. All right, FMLers, if you don't want to miss an episode, make sure to follow on your favorite podcast app. And if you're loving the show, drop us a 5-star rating and leave a review. You can keep up with me on Instagram at Gabrielle Stone or the podcast page at FML Talk Podcast. For all the merch and books signed personally by me, you can shop the FML line on eatprayfml.com. And as always, have a fucking self-love cocktail on me. Cheers!
The Dateable Podcast is part of the Frolic Media Network. Find more podcasts you'll love at frolic.media/podcasts. You can follow us on Instagram at Dateable Podcast and visit dateablepodcast.com for access to all the episodes and our premium programs. Also, make sure to subscribe today if you haven't already on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform so you are the first to get all the latest episodes. And most importantly, stay dateable.